Would you close the doors and sit down, please? Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. I'm Representative Judy Weeks-Roner, and along with Gloria Vindez and Marcy Campbell, we've put together this debate between Rachelle Morris and Mike Carey. You can't hear me? Oh. Is it? Okay, now got it. Okay, we'll start again. I'm Judy Weeks-Roner, Representative 30. I'm running for Senate 12. It's been Democrat for over 24 years, and we're going to flip it because this council at large race is important to our county and to Senate 12. I'd like to introduce Gloria Vindez. She will be keeping time for the candidates, and she's helped me spearhead this, and I don't know what I've done without her. Marcy Campbell will moderate tonight's event. It is being put on YouTube for those that are not here tonight, but you can watch it later on from your home. Mike Carey is a candidate, and Rachelle Morris is the other candidate, and we need to have some just some introductions as far as what the protocol will be tonight. The candidates have been versed on the rules. Each candidate will be given a 3-minute opening speech. We did a coin toss, and Rachelle is going to be first, and Mike will be second. At the end, the 3-minute conclusion, it will be just the opposite. So we've done that. The time frame, Gloria will be keeping time for everyone, so the candidates will be able to watch her, and Marcy will make sure that the candidates keep to the time, and if they don't, she'll stop right away. So this will be a formal debate. There will be no questions from the audience. We have a basket out there where you could ask questions. We will take 3 of them based upon the fact that they need to be county issues. We do not want any national issue at all in this debate. This is strictly a county debate. So where the delegates can find out what these people want to do with Salt Lake County. They are vying for a 6-year term. They are vying for the entire county, not just, there are special districts, but these are not the candidates. These are the candidates that are for the entire district. Their candidacy will be for 6 years. So it's extremely important that we get the very, very best candidate. The questions, no one has seen those questions at all except for me, and I just gave them to Marcy a few minutes ago. They are tough questions, and I've told the candidates that they are tough. So we are going to make a decision based upon realistic things that are happening in Salt Lake County that we need to know about, because as taxpayers, we give a large sum to the county. With that, I'm going to ask everybody to join me, stand, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And just in case Marcy can't keep him under control, I'm going to be over there watching. Oh, in case Marcy doesn't keep him under control, I'm going to be sitting over there watching.
I plan to eat the mic tonight so you can all hear me. So is it my understanding they each get 3 minutes to do an introduction first? Is that correct? And we are starting, I don't know if I heard that part, who got the one. Okay, Rachelle won the coin toss. We'll start with you then.
Testing. Oh, there we go. I'm eating the microphone. Good evening. Thank you, delegates, for your service and dedication to this important convention nominating process. And thank you, Representative Judy Weeks-Rohner, for organizing this important debate. With the retirement of Democrat Jim Bradley, who has been serving in the at-large C seat for 24 years, this is the largest open seat race in the state of Utah that the Democrats are defending this year. It is imperative that we as Republicans take advantage of this once-in-a-generation opportunity to flip the seat by nominating a Republican who can win in November. My name is Rachelle Morris, and I'm a lifelong conservative Republican. My descendants were Utah pioneers. I'm the second of 7 children and proud aunt to 16 nieces and nephews, some of who are watching tonight. Hi, kiddos. When I think about my childhood, money was tight growing up, and my brothers and I were on the reduced lunch program. In the 6th grade, my mom was worried that my brothers and I were getting used to the government solving our problems, and so she took us off the program. I had to figure out how to pay for lunch on my own. And so I started selling gum out of my backpack. I became financially independent by the time I was 18 years old. I then became the first woman on my mom's side of the family to get a college degree. And over the last 18 years, I have managed and stewarded over several billions of dollars of assets and investments. When you look at the #1 job and responsibility of the Salt Lake County Council, it is to oversee and be wise stewards of our $1.9 billion annual budget. And I hope to be able to use my financial expertise on your behalf, the hardworking taxpayers of Salt Lake County that make Salt Lake County great. I know that I will add value to the council as soon as I join the council with my brains, my grit, and my conservative backbone. And I hope that, that you guys can see that you deserve an advocate who comes from the financial sector, who understands how to dig into budgets, analyze things, and not let your taxpayer dollars go to waste. I'm grateful to have earned the endorsements from several Salt Lake County leaders, such as Representatives Candace Perucci, Jordan Tusher, and Anthony Lubay, and also local mayors, such as Don Ramsey. And tonight, I am honored to announce the endorsement of Congressman Burgess Owens. So tonight we're going to cover many county topics. I look forward to the conversation. Let's go flip the seat this year.
Thank you. And Mike, it's your turn.
All right, can you hear me all? Okay. Last time I had a microphone in front of this many people, I was singing karaoke in Alabama. So here goes. Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Mike Carey. I'm running for the Salt Lake County Council at-large seat. Before I start, I want to thank Judy and all those who helped organize this debate, Marcy for moderating, and Rachelle for agreeing to this important opportunity to show you who your options are in this election. While I've met many great people around the county in the last 2.5 months, many of you have likely been asking yourselves the same questions I heard from them. Who is Mike Carey? Well, you've never heard of me because I'm just like you. I'm a guy who found success in my career over the last 25 years by keeping my head down, working my tail off, and raising a family with my beautiful wife, Jen, with whom I just celebrated 24 years of marriage on Monday. And have three great kids that keep us on our toes. We moved to Utah 13 years ago so I could run design and construction on the NSA's data center down in Bluffdale. We were moving from the DC area after 11 years where we had a ringside seat to the tremendous growth of the federal government in the post 9/11 era, and it was a big reason why we wanted to leave. So when we landed here with our kids in tow, we immediately fell in love with the people, the sense of community, their grit, and the compassion we found in many of our new neighbors, friends, and coworkers. 2 years ago, I attended caucus for the first time and witnessed a not so discreet movement to oust Mike Lee as our nominee. This shocked me, but I was also shocked by some of the people in my caucus meeting who I knew did not share the same conservative values as me. So I ran for precinct chair and state delegate and won both. Since then, I've been active in the county GOP Central Committee meetings, and when I saw we only had one candidate in this race, I did a little research, spoke to my wife Jen before bed on Thursday night, January 4th, and I told her I was going to run. I knew I have the capacity to serve, the background and experience to be effective, and wanted to give you an option. So I filed on Friday, January 5th, with no campaign team, no website, no volunteers, and only personal funds to launch this campaign. I was following my gut, which has never let me down. I've never been a politician or part of any organized campaign, but I've upheld the conservative values of our party since registering as a Republican at 18 years old, because our founders formed this system of government for very specific reasons. 3 branches with a clearly delineated separation of powers, and intentionally small, so power was never consolidated by one person or group, and remained with the people. I'm running because I'm willing to serve and dedicate all my time, energy, and backbone this office requires for the next 6 years. I bring private sector experience rooted in accountability, efficiency, and successful outcomes. Elected office in this country was never intended to be a career, but it's become one for too many. I'm here to serve you, listen to you, and represent you. Thank you.
Okay, let's get started with the debate. So just so you're aware, they will have 2 minutes each to answer the question. We are going to be allowing a 15-second rebuttal if and only if there is a candidate accusation. I don't know if that will be the case. So it's not an automatic rebuttal every single time. Only if something is said about the other candidate, then there can be a rebuttal at that point. Okay? And I believe, Rachelle, you're first. Is that correct? No? Okay. First question, Rachelle. And both of them are answering the same question, correct? What do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in the county?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I have spent a lot of time west of I-15 in this campaign, and as I have spent time meeting with residents and families, whether it's in West Valley City or Harriman or Riverton or Bluffdale, there is a lack of infrastructure development that has happened on the west side to support the growth that is happening on the west side of our county. I know this. I've been building relationships with state leaders because we need county leadership who is engaged with state leaders throughout the year. Our county mayor is not collaborating with our state leaders. Our county represents over 1/3 of the state's population, and Jenny Wilson does not show up to the Capitol. So guess what that means? During the session, we're not getting infrastructure dollars allocated to our county because there's a lack of leadership happening in the lobbying office that is the most senior ranking member of our county. I recognize I will have the same constituents that Jenny Wilson will, or a Republican who can beat Jenny Wilson this year in the county mayor's race. And I promise that I will spend all year collaborating and negotiating and being at the table on behalf of our county so that then West Jordan doesn't just get one water tank, West Jordan gets 2 water tanks like they need in order to actually develop the neighborhoods that they are wanting to develop. I'm proud of Representative Perucci, who just walked in. She ran a bill this year that will allow cities to contract out their own bus services because UTA has not been providing bus services to the Southwest Quadrant. So those are some of the issues I'm seeing in the county.
All right, thank you. Mike, what do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in the county?
Well, it's hard to disagree with anything Rachelle just said. I actually don't. I agree with her wholeheartedly on everything. But I think really what it comes down to, too, is understanding who you have to collaborate with and how you collaborate with them. Okay, I've actually built projects for UTA. I just recently completed their clean fuels depot on the west side of the tracks up in Salt Lake City. I spent years in the room with UTA officials, planning and designing and getting ready to build that job. And then when you look at local zoning codes that are specific to each city, and then what is the coordinating the UTA plans, and what are the bus services that we're not adequate right now, or future rail services. We also need to be coordinating those efforts with what is the future development going to look like. All right, we've done a really poor job, and most agencies do a very poor job of staying ahead of the curve. Imagine if we were able to do that. Okay, so one of the things that I would add to that is I would invest a lot of time on the county council working with the cities and towns to looking at their master plans, make sure that everything is coordinated, because the state hasn't done a great job coordinating that either.
Thank you. So, side note before we go to the next question, we'll start with you, Mike, on the next question. But I just wanted to say both of you gave a fabulous answer there, but I was asked to be the moderator for this one thing that I'm particularly skilled at, which is neither of you really answered the question as it was asked, which is, what do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in the county? So we're going to move on to the next one, but I'm just giving you a heads up that we'll be looking for specific answers to the specific questions that are asked. All right, so Mike, you get to go first on this one.
I haven't debated since 8th grade.
What experience do you have that is relevant to the council at large position?
So I spent the last 25 years in construction. Started at the bottom, worked my way up to the top of operations, running multi-billion-dollar projects and multiple projects all across the country, from San Francisco to Philadelphia to Texas to even to Vancouver, British Columbia. I spent a lot of time in DC before we moved out here, building a lot of work there. When you get in the business of delivering $1 billion to $2 billion projects, you're dealing with a list of stakeholders longer than my arm. You're dealing with labor unions. You're dealing with, in right-to-work states, you're dealing with the open shop population of subcontractors. You're dealing with minority groups, disaffected or women in business associations, to ensure that these projects are really not making any one contractor or any one group rich. You're also dealing with a lot of cities and town administrators and elected officials, because they have their concerns around these projects. So I've been doing that part of my job for the better part of the last 10 years all over the country, in a lot of places where I don't have a lot in common with a lot of the folks. All right, imagine me in San Francisco. My background from construction, as well as being a trustee, serving on the board of trustees at my alma mater, raising my kids, that's taught me a lot. I've learned a lot from my wife, how to be the more patient husband. I think there's a lot of life experience that ultimately goes into the role of the county council at large seat, which requires you to be able to deal with people who don't necessarily agree with you on a lot of issues, or with a diversity of opinions from all over the county, and still approach it from a conservative standpoint with conservative principles.
Thank you. Rachelle, what experience do you have that is relevant to the council at large position?
When I think of this at-large seat, I think of stewardship. We are running to represent all 1.2 million people in the county, all 6 districts. The 6 districts of our county each have unique cultures and needs inside of them, right? Over the last 18 years, I have managed and stewarded billions of dollars of assets. I understand what it means to say no. I'm the only candidate in this race who has to say no in my private sector job every single day of my career. And when I have met with elected officials over the last several months, one of the things that they have commonly said is the hardest thing to do as an elected official is say no when there's a really good program that could be funded. I say no every single day. My investors rely on me and count on me to have backbone and to make good, judicious decisions with their money. I do not have the luxury to raise taxes on my investors. That happens in the public sector. But I'm not going to let that happen on the county council because I already have the skills and muscles to say no all the time. And it's not just saying no, it's also thinking about balance sheet optimization. And when I say that, I mean, yes, it will be great to find ways to cut fat in the budget and hopefully decrease property taxes for all of us, but it's also about increasing the revenue of assets in our county, increasing tourism dollars, getting excess cash flow so that then there's less of a burden on us as taxpayers in our county.
Thank you.
Can I respond? There was kind of a minor implication made there. In construction, we say no a lot.
Oh, okay. That was less than 15 seconds, okay. All right, we're starting with you again, Rachelle. Ready? All right. Recently, the county council passed a resolution in favor of net zero. Are you in support of this? And then why or why not?
No, I am not in support of it. I am not in support of virtue signaling without action to results. When I look at this net zero resolution, look, I've invested in multiple clean tech companies, in multiple electric vehicle companies. This mandate that somehow the unincorporated residents of Salt Lake County will be able to be 100% renewable by 2030 does not exist in reality. But we as Republicans have allowed Democrats to control the narrative on clean air initiatives. And I'm saying, no, 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 okay? I am smart enough to know that innovation and growth happens in the private sector. And when I think about clean air and clean air issues in our county, the number one issue is the exhaust that comes from our cars in our county. And I care about needle-moving results. So there's a federal program right now where there's already federally funded electric vehicle chargers. Counties could have applied for those grants to get those EV chargers installed around the county, infrastructure development. Salt Lake County did not get its application in. But you know what county did get its application in? Utah County, right to the south of us, a very Republican county. Why is that? It's ineffectiveness inside of our county mayor's office, and I will hold the county mayor's office accountable for the lack of effectiveness when it comes to clean air and environmental issues. You can pass resolutions to say you're going to do things, but you actually need to do something about it. And so that's what I'll do on the county council.
Thank you. Mike, recently the county council passed a resolution in favor of net zero. Are you in support of this, and why or why not?
I'm actually very much against it. You know, as an engineer, you have to look at the details behind any policy. And so I'm actually working with a company that's going to be one of the largest EV charging manufacturers in the country right here in Utah as they open up shop later this year. And it was stunning to find just the naivete behind public office holders that are in favor of this or waving this banner like it's going to be some solution that's just going to drop out of the sky overnight. Okay, as a general contrast between what I learned on the EV front, where we know the grid is totally inadequate to meet any of these demands, And oh, by the way, over on the development side, we're building data centers at a record pace around the country, which consume gobs and gobs and gigawatts of power. Okay, this notion that we can vote for some feel-good bill is just lacking. Okay, where I think the opportunities arise, you can still invest in those technologies. We can still invest in those technologies from a public standpoint, but we got to get real about the ripple effect that it has throughout the rest of organized society. I mean, if you want to have 50,000 people in Salt Lake County driving electric vehicles, where's the power coming from? Okay, so we need to be getting into the details on that kind of thing. What I'm really looking for, net zero is the power side. I'm sure we'll talk about water too, but on the power side, the best thing we can all do is conservation. Okay, so there's a lot of technologies out there. I don't know what kind of grants exist. I'm sure there's grants for everything, so I'm sure there's a grant out there. Okay, but if there's grants out there for people to upgrade aging systems in their homes and help people who maybe can't afford to make those upgrades, that's not something the county should do, but I think it's certainly something that we could get smart about and try to educate them on that so that they have it.
Thank you. Mike, you're up again. Are you collecting signatures as a path to the primary ballot? If so, what is your reason?
No.
Well, that was fast. Rachelle, same question. Are you collecting signatures as a path to the primary ballot? If so, what is your reason?
Yes, I have a lot of things in common with Senator Mike Lee, and one of those is that I'm approaching this race in the same way that he approaches his races, which is you leave no chance for losing. I have two of Mike Lee's former campaign managers running my campaign with me. We are doing 30 delegate events between caucus night and convention. I am putting 100% of my energy into the convention nominating process, and I hope that I can earn the support of over 60% of our amazing county delegates. I'm also a county delegate this year. I was a county delegate 2 years ago, as well as a state delegate. I love the convention process. I love this grassroots nature of the convention nominating process. And yes, signatures are happening, but I'm putting no time or energy myself as a candidate into that. I'm 100% focused on spending time, real time, in person, around the county and on Zoom with our delegates.
Thank you. You're up again. Rachelle, what are some specific problems, difficulties, or challenges that you see in the county, and what do you propose to do about them?
Yeah, I think the number one issue that I'm seeing in the county and county leadership right now is the county mayor's office. When you look at the budget, the county mayor's office itself consumes $15 million for the executive office. 33 of the top 100 paid county employees in Salt Lake County reside within the county mayor's office. The county mayor has 3 deputy mayors and a chief of staff who are all making over $200,000 a year, and several more staffers who are making over $150,000 a year. And when you compare that to the county council annual budget, well, we're taking up $3 million for a 9-person team, and we are all elected. The 6 deputy mayors, which I have a feeling one of you might be tuning into this live stream, because I know the Democrats are very focused on my candidacy. They're very nervous about me, and they know that I can beat their Democrat candidate in November. We have 6 deputy mayors in Salt Lake County that are all appointed positions. We, the people, do not get to elect them. And 3 of them are making over $200,000 a year, and 3 of them are making almost $200,000 a year. So I would like to use, when you think about budgets and when you think about investments and managing the purse strings of something, you can kind of operate with carrots and sticks, okay? And a stick here is by the county council saying, you know what? Last year's county mayor's budget was $15 million. and this next year, it's $14 million. Jenny Wilson, we believe you'll know how to manage this $1 million decrease in your mayor's office. Let's go.
Thank you. Mike, what are a specific problem, difficulty, challenge that you see in the county? I guess I didn't say it plural like I did for you, so I'm going to do it again. Sorry about that. What are some specific problems, difficulties, challenges that you see in the county, and what do you propose to do about them?
I think there's a lot of opportunities for growth and improvement here in the county. I think the budget is definitely, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in the budget. You know, Rachelle talked about these deputy mayors. When you actually look at what their roles are, one of them used to be the CFO of the county, and one of them used to be, has a 27-year very successful experience as in the operations side. So maybe there's a rebranding on those two, but the other 3 or 4 that came out of the nonprofit world that have no executive branch experience whatsoever, yeah, guess what? They're on the table for discussion when I'm on the council. But I think there's a lot of other opportunities too. You know, House Bill 330, I had breakfast with Kirk Cullimore this morning, who sponsored House Bill 330, which is going to require the last remaining portions of the unincorporated areas of any first-class county. He wrote the bill with Jordan Tusher, and it passed, and it's been printed. So that bill, House Bill 330, is going to require that all remaining unincorporated areas in first-class counties, which is Salt Lake County is, will have to be automatically incorporated by 2027. The opportunity is right in the org chart for county executive branch. If the entire mission statement, which was predicated of the county services, was predicated on a much larger swath of unincorporated areas when the council was set up just 20 years ago, but whenever the MSD was set up, probably before I was born, okay, there was a ton of unincorporated areas, so it served a function. That function is going to completely change under this once this bill passes. So we have a unique opportunity in the next 2 years to take a fresh sheet of paper and really look to drive efficiency into county operations and frankly eliminate some of the services that the county's not going to be on the hook for anymore. The last thing, I only have about 15 seconds. We've got to do something about wage disparity. I know that's not necessarily the council's purview, but if you follow me, you know I'm talking a lot about skilled trades and driving young people back into those career opportunities so that they can do just as well as anybody else.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can I get 15 more seconds? Because he went over.
You go 15.
I'd just like to point out that Representative Jordan Tusher has endorsed me, and Senator Kirk Cullimore is supporting my candidacy as well. And I have gotten into the weeds with Representative Tusher on the Unified Police Department issue and look forward to exploring that more.
I don't know if that was a rebuttal, because yeah, that's not a rebuttal,
No,
sorry.
he went over his time, and so.
Okay. You're up again, Mike.
Okay.
4.99% of Salt Lake County residents have chosen to live in cities and towns that have taken on the primary role of government, such as police and fire. Some have even chosen their own ancillary services, such as libraries and animal control. What services do you feel are better left to cities or to private sector?
That's a great question. So, I mean, the role of county government is really this it has the unique position of being in between state and city, right? So, if you're a resident of a city and you elect those representatives to represent you within that boundary, right? It's up to them. It's their purview to decide what services they're not going to provide or not going to provide, or in essence, subcontract out to another agency that provides those services. You know, the county statutorily has very specific services delegated to it through the code, through the House legislature, and signed into law by the governor. Okay, so when you know, I think there's a lot of opportunity where there's some duplication of taxation happening where one service is being provided. All right, I think Rachelle and I probably agree on that. You know, but as far as like you living in your house in whatever town you live in, you should, you know, whatever the town is not picking up, as long as it's not a burden on the county government, I don't think that it's up to the cities and towns to tell the county what they need to do if it's not statutorily required through the legislature to be part of the county's operation. You know, if you don't do that, if you don't look at it from that approach, saying no, right? If you don't look at it from that approach, then ultimately you get scope creep. You will always get scope creep in government. That's how we go from $1 billion 10 years ago to $2 billion today, with far fewer people being directly served by county services and more people incorporated into cities and towns. Okay, so that's pretty much where I stand on that. I think there's some weeds to be worked out, but you know, that's the big part.
Thank you. All right, Rachelle. 4.99% of Salt Lake County residents have chosen to live in cities and towns that have taken on the primary roles of government, such as police and fire. Some have even chosen their own ancillary services, such as libraries and animal control. What services do you feel are better left to cities or to the private sector?
Well, I agree that many of those services are better left. You know, I think deeply about the proper role of government of every layer of government, you know, and I am a proponent of local is often better. So digging into the unified police department issue, there is double taxation that is going on inside of our county when you look at UPD. And we also have a county sheriff who operates with a conflict of interest. She is an elected position. She oversees the county jail that I think should be at the county level. I don't think that cities and municipalities should be operating jails in every community across the county. It makes sense that that's at the county level. I think the health department also makes sense at the county level. But many cities have opted out of the unified police department. And so, for example, I've spent a lot of time in South Jordan, and in South Jordan, they've told me that the South Jordan Police Department has its own SWAT team, okay? And the unified police department also has a SWAT team. So, if a SWAT team is called to a case in Sandy from the unified police department, guess who gets billed for that? The county gets billed for that, which means technically South Jordan residents are paying for their own SWAT team, and they're also paying for the UPD SWAT team that just did this case in Sandy. There's lots of examples of that, and I'm really excited and energized by the work that Representative Tusher is leading out on that. Another thing that I think the county needs to get out of is the Office of Regional Development. There's many programs inside of there that are workforce development services that either the state level's already doing or the private sector's already doing. They're doing a better job. Our county programs are not actually moving the needle when it comes to workforce development services.
Thank you. You're up again. All right, Rachelle, what do you believe is the role of the Salt Lake County Council with regards to our mayor-council form of government?
Well, I've already dug into this a little bit, but the council needs to be strengthened against the county mayor's office. When we look at the state level of government, we have the executive branch, which is the governor's office. We also have the legislative branch, right, which is our House and our Senate. And when you go through the budget process at the state level, the governor has a budget team, and they build out their budget proposal at the beginning of the year, right? And every single lawmaker I know says that they take that budget, they say, "Thank you, Governor. We appreciate your recommendations," and they throw it away because the legislature has its own budget experts and they build the budget from scratch. When you look at our Salt Lake County mayor-council system, every budget expert who works for the county resides within the county mayor's office. Yes, exactly. So the council can only negotiate around the edges of the budget. The council actually cannot build the budget from scratch. So what do you think about transparency there? What do you think about accountability between the mayor's office and the council? There are several programs inside of our county that do not have reporting requirements back to the council. So item number one, when in office, I'm gonna say, you know what we're gonna do? we're actually going to hire a budget expert for the council. We're only taking up $3 million of the county budget, and the county mayor's office is taking up $15 million. Well, guess what? We're going to trim the county mayor's budget by a little bit. We're going to add a head count to the council so that the council can start building the budget from scratch. And I guarantee you, this county will be a better run organization by doing that.
Thank you. Mike, what do you believe is the role of the Salt Lake County Council with regards to our mayor-council form of government?
So the council is the legislative branch of our county government, and the council is ultimately the power of the purse, right? So it was shocking when I learned, researching some of the dynamics of how do all these these goodies get on the agenda every couple weeks, right? Well, there's a few people that are during the council agendas when they vote on appropriations, or when they're discussing appropriations in the back. So the mayor has the same ability as the chair and to put items on the agenda. Okay, we need to change that. That is a county ordinance that the county voted on. In order to do that, you need a conservative on the council that understands how that works, okay? So if the mayor wants to put something on the council's agenda that it has a dollar value attached to it and some allocation of funds, maybe there should be a council member to sponsor that request. Otherwise, the mayor can put on whatever she wants, that has to do with, as long as there's no money attached to it, right? I also think that just the nature of the council in general has got to have a stronger conviction on, we've had so many opportunities in the last few years where an item that was up for discussion that should have been a layup, okay, went nowhere, okay? And we have a saying in my business that movement is the illusion of progress. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of that, okay? And it's not for lack of trying, but some of the folks on the council. Okay, but there are some folks, even some Republicans, who could do a better job and to represent us in pushing these things forward when the vast majority of Salt Lake County residents are behind them.
Thank you. Mike, the record of the past few years on the Salt Lake County Council shows that despite having a 5-4 Republican majority, whenever there is a 5-4 or 6-3 split, it most often falls to the Democrats. What would you do to help Republican policies and positions prevail?
It's a great question. For those of you that have been to some of my town halls, I've had about 12 or 13 since about, I guess, late January. No one knew who I was, so no one came, but I'm just kidding. No, I met a lot of great people and have had a lot of cottage meetings, but one of the things I talk about is, one of the first rules in business, and I learned this, negotiating billion-dollar contracts, negotiating $100 million change orders over the last 25 years, getting into the weeds on every single budget. Some of my budgets on these jobs were an inch thick when you print them out. Okay, so one of the things you learn, the first rule you learn, don't negotiate against yourself, okay? And unfortunately, we've got people that are on the council that have been willing to get behind some pretty cantankerous issues. And we thought that they were going to go forward, but they didn't, right? Ultimately, the council got voted down with the help of some Republicans, all right? Look at the Supreme Court. You kind of need that extra Republican on there to guarantee a dunk sometimes, right? So I look at it as, there's been some lack of backbone on some issues. I think there's this unfortunate willingness by some people that in an attempt to appear compassionate, they give up all their leverage, which I do not understand. Okay, when you're in control, that doesn't mean you have to be a tyrant. That doesn't mean that you have no empathy. Okay, what it means is that you can still negotiate, but you have a little more weight on your side of the scale. Okay, so the last thing you do is jump right to the middle. And we've done that, and that's a big reason why I'm running. Okay? 2 huge missed opportunities in the last few years. First thing was masks. The second thing was a bathroom bill. That's what put me over the line. Right? Those should have been 2 easy discussions where instead we wrung our hands, all right, for weeks And we didn't listen to the people that were in the room saying, my kids are getting screwed over on this deal. All right? You got to have backbone. You got to have grit.
Thank you. Rachelle, the record of the past few years shows that despite having a 5-4 Republican majority, whenever there is a 5-4 or 6-3 split, it most often falls to the Democrats. What would you do to help Republican policies and positions prevail?
Yes, coming from the private sector, I had no plans on running for office in 2024. I received a phone call the Saturday before Thanksgiving from a senior Republican lawmaker in the state of Utah, and she asked me, Rachelle, I think you should run for office. And I said, well, maybe 10 years from now. And she goes, no, 10 weeks from now. We need you, Rachelle. Our party needs you, your county needs you, and the state needs you to run for office. Jim Bradley is retiring. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us as Republicans to win the seat. She also laid out the Democrats' plan of turning Utah blue. And the next strategic move for the Democrats to turn Utah blue is by getting a Democrat majority on the county council. That happens if they win this election and they flip one of the 3 district seats. I'm literally running to be a Republican backbone. I understand that there have been some Republicans who have voted with the Democrats on the county council. I would not have voted to extend the government shutdown during the pandemic. I would not have voted for mask mandate. And when I've talked to one of the council members who did vote for the mask mandate, and she was explaining to me her reasoning, I thought to myself, you are a great woman, but me coming from the world of investing and understanding economics and supply and demand, I would have whiteboarded with you for hours to explain to you that the mask mandate was not the way to solve the issue of having a supply of masks on hand. So I am running to be a Republican backbone for our party, for our county, and for our state this year.
Thank you. We're back with you, Rachelle. Ready? If you received a $1 million grant, I feel like a game show right now because this is such a good app. I got my little card up, timer going. Okay, if you received a $1 million grant to use for the county any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Well, I love this question. If I received a $1 million grant, I would use it to strengthen our county jail. We actually have a shortage of officers at our county jail, and when I think about essential county employees, look, we have people who are technically county employees who teach yoga storytelling at the library or teach Zumba at the library, but we're lacking some of the headcount inside of our county jail. Our county council voted to invest significant funding into beefing up our county jail facilities, which I applaud. And I would then immediately work on recruiting and retaining officers who can then help service our county jail. We have a shortage there. When I think about one of the top issues in our county, it's homelessness, right? And I think we need to be enforcing the rules that are on our books. There should be no camping on properties where camping is not allowed. We should be enforcing that. We should not be allowing open drug use on our streets. That is a public safety issue. And it doesn't mean we don't have compassion, because we do. And we can collaborate with the state leaders, with city leaders, and with nonprofits like the Other Side Academy to get better results. And then we can make sure that we are accountable to the tax dollars that are already being spent on homelessness. But yes, we need to beef up our county jail.
Thank you. Mike.
So, sadly, $1 million ain't what it's worth, or ain't what it used to be, right? So, $1 million, $1 million is not going to get you very far. If all I had was, if I had unlimited funds, I would do a lot of things, okay? I would look at the mental health crisis. I would look at the addiction and recidivism and mental health issues you do see downtown. Okay, but if I just had $1 million, okay, I'm looking for something that has the highest return on investment. Okay, what can I do for $1 million? Okay, one of my key platform issues is driving awareness to the career opportunities in the skilled trades and manufacturing. Okay, we have not put any marketing, if you compare the Marcom budget for these careers compared to the attention that college education degrees and the white collar jobs that come on the back end of that, it's like 1,000 to 1, okay? But here's the reality. A 23-year-old first-year journeyman plumber in Salt Lake County right now who graduated high school 5 years ago, who has no student loan debt, has had minimal expenses to get through his apprenticeship, and been heavily subsidized by his or her employer for all the education opportunities they had along the way, is making a minimum of $83,000, average about $90,000 a year. Okay, some people have heard me say that before. The reason, why is that relevant? Okay, because $1 million, I would take that and I would turn around and go to the West Side and I would bring these employers in. I would hire a team to basically compete with the colleges to be able to show them what they can actually do so that we can get rid of this hopelessness we've seen coming out of COVID. My kids, graduated in 2020. That was a nightmare. And you have this lost generation that doesn't know where to go. And meanwhile, the average age of a first-year apprentice is 27.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. But you get. It is now time to ask some of the questions that were polled, that were submitted from you, the audience. So, Mike, you're first on this one. What is your opinion on the inland port and how it will impact the county long term?
So I understand the logic. Coming from design and construction, you spend probably too much time with developers. I understand the logic and the initiative behind it, but I still ask myself why the special conditions attached to this. Okay, the private sector, as Rachelle said, and we agree on this point, you're going to see efficiency and innovation come out of the private sector. That to me seems almost like a handout, and yet, we have a pretty big county. I think there's a lot of opportunities on the west side to where it didn't have to all be focused in one area. It makes sense again from an engineering standpoint, but from a taxpayer philanthropy standpoint, it doesn't. Let's put it that way.
And you're up, Rachelle. Thank you.
I'm going to keep this real quick. It's been a train wreck boondoggle since the beginning. It's been a disaster. And so I don't know what else to say, although it has been a boondoggle for the people who have had special interest, who were involved with the project from day one. It's not really helping the private sector at all, and I don't really care to spend much time and energy focused on the inland port.
Thank you. Which is really interesting because you used a vocabulary word that's in the next question. I don't know how you planned that, but this is fun.
Boondoggle? Train wreck?
You'll see. Rochelle, you're up next. What are you going to do to stop the gondola boondoggle?
Oh, okay.
And provide, there's a follow-up with it, and provide decent ski bus service.
Okay. The city or town of Alta last week voted in opposition of the gondola. As I have spent time in communities all across Salt Lake County, I remember the woman in Harriman who told me, I have never gone skiing in my life, and I've lived in Salt Lake County my entire life. This is a rich man's project. It's not my project. I've also remember the gentleman named Kevin in West Valley City who said, why do I have to pay for a gondola? I never go to Little Cottonwood Canyon. And so as I look at the gondola project as it is, there's multiple lawsuits happening. Now that the town of Alta is voted in opposition for it, I really don't think that the gondola is going to come to existence. I think we're going to find other ways to better service the canyon. And so now that Representative Perucci has passed the bill where cities and townships can contract out private bus services, then now there's a market, okay? And UTA can bid to do bus servicing up Little Conwood Canyon. And maybe we can also explore a different bus provider to go up Little Conwood Canyon. Let's let the markets operate in a more efficient way.
Thank you. Do you need a repeat of the boondoggle? What are you going to do to stop the gondola boondoggle and provide decent ski bus service?
So when I first heard of the gondola, and I live not that far from the mouth of Little Cottonwood Canyon, so when I first heard of the gondola, I'm like, that's interesting. I've actually worked on public-private partnership contracts, not, that's a P3, capital PPP, okay, where there's usually an 8 or 10 to 1 private sector investment to public dollars. And imagine mortgaging your house. You're a first-time home buyer, you build a house, okay, and with it comes 30 years of all the maintenance, okay? So someone's coming in and changing the filters. Someone's coming in and replacing the roof in year 25. Someone's cleaning out the gutters, okay? That's a real P3, okay? It's a 25 to 40-year concession. I've worked on BC Women's and Children's Hospital in Vancouver, was delivered by that. My old company financed the vast majority of the cost of a $300+ million hospital, okay? So when I heard about the gondola, someone's gonna make a massive investment and the public will have some skin in the game as well. And at the end of that concession, the public sector owns it. We own it. The public entity would actually own it day one. It's called financial close. By the end of that, you can actually renew the service contract and the operations contract. But when I heard that it was kind of inverted and that the public was going to pay more of it, that's a no-go for me. Okay, we've got a lot of these. We've got a lot of these little kind of unique deals happening, both in the legislature and around Utah, where we use terminology like public-private partnership, but it's not, and where's Pat? I saw Pat earlier. Okay, Pat Jones invited me to this thing, and I listened to this gentleman who's running for Attorney General and talk about, P3s. I think what we need to be doing, it was completely different than the P3s I was involved with. I think what we need to be doing is solving the problem at the top of the canyon with access to parking, which is where the bottleneck occurs, so that people aren't parking on Little Cottonwood Canyon Road, and obviously increasing the bus service without widening the road.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So this is the last question. I thought we'd do speed round, just one word question. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just speed round. Just kidding. It's the last question, and it really can be rather short if you want. So, Mike, you're up. Have you ever worked on another political campaign in Utah? If so, who was the candidate?
I have never been associated with any campaign. Like I said in my opening, I got 3 minutes, right? Yeah. Okay, 2 minutes. Like I said in my opening, I voted. I paid attention. I didn't know how the caucus system worked. I didn't pay attention to party machinations and whatnot. But I got an opportunity to first see that 2 years ago, and every quarter since, or every month since, as we have our meetings. And so, I've donated to candidates. Obviously, I've voted pretty much party line Republican in every election I've ever been a part of. But no, I've never been associated, nor have I been asked to participate in any campaigns. This campaign, my campaign now, has actually been great because I've got to meet a lot of other wonderful candidates that are running for other offices around the county. To the extent that I'm supportive of them, that's about the extent of my involvement. I've never raised money for anybody. I think the most I ever gave was like $200 to a candidate who wasn't even in my state. It was just someone I thought sounded cool, and I was like, sure. I hope they win. That's the extent of my political involvement, outside of my roles and responsibilities as a precinct chair. I do see myself, whether no matter what, going forward, getting more heavily involved locally now, as I've gotten closer to everything involving the county with this race. So it's no to date, probably not going forward. How's that?
Thank you. Rachelle, have you ever worked on another political campaign in Utah? If yes, who was the candidate?
The only political campaign I've ever worked on is Rachelle Morris for Salt Lake County Council at large C. Like many of us in the room, we have been engaged in the party. We have been engaged as delegates. I've served as a county delegate and state delegate in 2022. Many of us volunteer our time and energy in the community, and I have done that as well. And so, you can think of being a volunteer. And by being a volunteer and getting involved as a county delegate and a state delegate, I am prepared to run for Salt Lake County at-large C seat. This is the largest open seat race in the state of Utah that the Democrats are defending this year. And it takes someone who's been hanging around in Republican Party politics and who has good relationships both with state leaders and with city leaders around the county to be prepared to take on the Democrats this fall and flip the seat.
Thank you. It is now time. It is now time for closing remarks, and as Rachelle went first last time, we'll have Mike go first this time. He has 3 minutes for closing remarks.
So I obviously prepared remarks for the opening, but I didn't for the close. When I got into this, I was thinking about this race last June when I was thinking about making a career change from working as a general contractor, which, are there any general contractors in the room? Or anybody who works in construction? Okay, those are long weeks, okay? I can't tell you how many years I spent on the road away from my family doing all the things that a father and a husband has to do in order to raise a family and provide for that family, even though that sometimes means you're not home, okay? I made a career change because I had the opportunity to do so last year with this particular race in mind, all right? When I first started floating the idea with Chris Knoll, the party chair, and some other folks that I had met at the Central Committee meetings and befriended in that capacity, I started wondering, like, am I going to have the capacity to do this when I make this change in September? And I can tell you the answer is absolutely yes. But I was told that there was going to be someone else running that I would probably want to support, and that was true, okay? But when I found out there was only one person in this race, that changed in January. So I came to this party late, okay? But the reason I'm running is because I refuse, like many people I've talked to sit on the sidelines again through another election wondering what the hell happened, okay? I refuse to sit idly by and then question the decisions, the unimpressive decisions by people who are supposed to be representing us, all right? I've seen it, and I don't have criticisms of everybody in government. Don't mistake me. I'm like, burn the whole thing down. I'm not saying that, okay? But we've got to stop pretending there isn't this faction within the Republican Party that doesn't lean left, okay? The compassionate people that Jen and I met when we first moved here, okay, we're now part of that, and we love it here, okay? But the reality is that there are so many people, all right, that I know personally that I've seen and I've met, at the town hall meetings. There's so many people I've met in just the last 2 months that agree with me when I say our compassion has been weaponized against us, okay? People are taking advantage of the fact of the good-natured people of Salt Lake County and Utah on issues across the board. That goes for the state level, all right? It happens at the federal level, and we sure as hell see it here at the county level. And I'm over it, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. And Rachelle?
Mike, when I think about this conversation and debate that we've just had, it sounds like we have a lot in common. I wish that you had had a conversation with me back in early January, because I think we could have seen that we are both quite conservative Republicans. And when I think about this debate that we've had, and when I think about running for this office, I think about what it means to be a descendant of Utah pioneers, where my great-great-grandparents literally helped build this valley and build this state. And now, what does it mean for me to be a modern-day Utah woman, a modern-day conservative, millennial, Republican woman, when the Democrats are trying to turn our county blue first and then our state blue? It will not happen on my watch. We need a conservative Republican who will be an effective steward of our county budget. We need a conservative Republican who will be an effective advocate on behalf of our county for all 1.2 million people who live in our county. We need an effective advocate. We do not have an effective advocate at our county leadership level right now. This is why I am running. It's literally why I'm running. I am running because I care deeply about our community. And guess what? I'm still technically in my 30s. I've never felt younger than running for office in my late 30s. And so I'm going to be here 10 years from now. I'm going to be here 20 years from now. I'm going to be here 30 years from now. And I want Salt Lake County to continue to be a conservative county where we effectively manage the county resources and budgets so that families can thrive in our community. We do not need Salt Lake County to turn into Denver. We do not need Salt Lake County to turn into San Francisco. We do not need Salt Lake County to turn into Seattle over the next 10 years. And that's literally why I am running for office, because I know I can be a Republican backbone, and I know that I can be a Republican who can flip this seat and beat the Democrat in November. I'm telling you what, on January 2nd, when we launched this campaign out of nowhere, the Democrats freaked out. They thought that they were going to easily cakewalk and win this seat. They're not thinking that anymore. Join Team Rachelle. We have hundreds of grassroots donors. We have thousands of people on our team. Join us. Let's go flip the seat.
We would like to thank the candidates for coming tonight for this debate. They were not aware of any of the questions, et cetera, and I feel like they did a really good job. It is not easy to run for office, so let's give a round of applause for both of them for running. Thank you. Thank you for showing appreciation that way. It's a really difficult task. We'd also like to thank Representative Judy Weeks-Roner and Gloria Vindas for putting this together. So thank you very much. And finally, I would like to personally thank you for being a delegate, because you are still caring about this area and caring about representing your precincts and caring about the form of a republic government that we need to keep. So please keep paying attention. I urge you and plead with you to keep paying attention. So thank you so much for being here. Did you need to say something?
With a quick raise of hands, was this productive for you versus? Okay, thank you, thank you.
The candidates will be out in the hall with some of their literature, or if you have questions that you want to have for them, you can just step outside and they'll meet you out there. Thank you for being here, everyone. Drive safely. This is great.